Chapter 26. One day, as the sun was about to go down, Akira found John at the shooting range. He was still firing intensely focused. Thwack! Plack! Plack! He sent arrow after arrow into the target, hurriedly reloading and moving on to the next. Akira calmly asked, "John, what are you shooting for?" "I need to get 4 bullseye groupings in a row before I lose the light." "Why?" Without thinking, John snapped, "Because that's Katsu's record and I need to beat him." "Be honest, do you really need that?" John shook his head, slowly deflating as Akira continued. "Let me tell you a story about trying to reach a goal before losing the light. A very long time ago, I was in love with a girl named Kimiko. One summer, I surprised her with a trip to a land she had always wanted to visit, Croatia, home of some of the most beautiful waterfalls in the world. There was one waterfall in particular whose beauty captured us. We found out about it on the last day of our journey, and I was determined to see it before we left the country. Our guides at the hotel had told us that this beautiful place was 5 hours away, through the winding mountain roads and over several dangerous bridges. So we awoke at dawn and began our journey. After driving trucks for a living, I was confident I could navigate the difficult roads and terrain in plenty of time to get there. According to my calculations, we would arrive at the waterfall halfway through the afternoon at the latest. I drove us through the winding mountain roads like a madman, but all of my driving crazy was for nothing when we arrived at our first sign of trouble. The first bridge wasn't a bridge at all, but a car ferry across a wide lake, and the next ferry didn't leave for another hour and a half. We took some pictures by the beautiful ferry and tried to enjoy the view and the journey. Truthfully, though, I was not enjoying any of it because my sole focus was on achieving my goal to get to the waterfall, and I wouldn't be satisfied until I, made it there. Determined to make up our lost time, we were the first people off the ferry. We stopped at the toll booth on the mountain road where the operator informed us, despite my calculations, that the waterfall was an hour away. It was more like 2 hours away with the muddy roads. As we drove, Kimiko asked me, "Do you want to do something else? I just want to spend time with you. It doesn't matter what we do." I shrugged her off as if she just suggested we ride a wooden horse instead of experience something truly spectacular. I, were going to make it to the cascading waterfall. I began to snap at Kimiko, irritated at even the slightest inconvenience. I wish I could say I was enjoying the journey, but I wasn't. Instead, I was angrily focused on how quickly I could make each turn in the road. Instead of enjoying the beautiful vistas around us, I could not get my mind off my goal, and with the sun passing overhead, I knew we did not have much time. We finally arrived at the trailhead to the waterfall, but as we got out of the car, we saw that even the man and woman running a roadside stand nearby were beginning to pack up for the day. I asked them frantically, "How do we get to the waterfall?" "It's too late." "How do I get to the waterfall?" "It's too late. Come back tomorrow." "We leave in the morning and now is the only time." "How do I get to the waterfall?" The waterfall is several miles away. It's about to downpour and the trail is not easy. It is a very bad idea. You can't make it there and back. There isn't enough light. It is very dangerous. You will be in the middle of the forest with no one around to help you if you get in trouble. But I refused to listen to them. Instead, I pulled Kimiko with me, ignoring the ominous clouds that gathered overhead and the rapidly fading daylight. I had now traveled for over 8 hours to experience this beautiful cascading waterfall, and it was too late to turn back or admit defeat. Even Kimiko's patience was beginning to wear thin as we trekked through the mountains, and I'm sure she asked if we could just stop and go somewhere else multiple times along the muddy trail. But she might as well have asked a statue because I just kept going. As we crossed the first bridge, it started to rain. I stopped to get a photo of her running across the bridge, and then I ran on. It was muddy and hard to get good footing after the bridge, but we kept going. Occasionally, I looked back to see if I could still see her. We passed 2 other travelers on their way back down the mountain. I asked, "Is it worth it?" And they replied, "Oh, it's amazing, but you'll never make it in time." I told Kimiko to go back with them, and I pressed on. I took off running. It started to rain, but I ran harder. I came across a pond in the middle of the path, and I could barely get around it. The light was getting worse. I kept running hard. Although the hills were making my legs burn, I got to the top of another one, and reality finally set in. I could make it to the cascading waterfall, but then I would have no light for a difficult, even with sunlight, trek back. I was in the middle of a foreign country. There were wild animals in this forest. Kimiko was worried sick and I had abandoned her. It was pouring rain. I had not eaten all day. The rainstorm was killing the last of the sunlight. I was not going to reach my goal. I would not experience the cascading waterfall. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I cursed the rain in Croatia. I sacrificed so much to achieve my goal, and I was so close. But I knew I needed to turn back. I screamed and I cursed it all again, and I finally turned around. John, this is where I learned the truth about partially controllable goals. They are very alluring, but very dangerous. Things like winning, rebounding, sales, or beating your opponent's records can distract you from what is more important, the person we become on the journey. That day, my focus was on the partially controllable goal, and I spoiled the journey, my character, my health, and my relationship in the process. I compromised the things that are not only important to me, but the things I spend my life trying to teach others to do well. Cascading waterfalls in life are sexy and alluring, and I hope you get to experience some of them. But if we focus on them instead of true mental toughness, we so often end up compromising all the things that truly matter. Sometimes we make it to the waterfalls, many times we do not. But regardless of whether we achieve our goal or not, there is always a path of destruction in our wake. True mental toughness is having a great attitude, giving your very, very best, treating people really, really well, having unconditional gratitude, regardless of your circumstances. It might be easier to justify that wake of destruction when you achieve the goal, but it's even more of a reality check when you do not. John, a wise man once said, "You can go chase a dream, but then sometimes you look back and there's a trail of tears behind you, and the tears are usually your wife and kids." I have no wife and children, but that day I learned the truth, that focusing on partially controllable goals can be much more trouble than it's worth. John nodded, looking up as the night sky faded down around them. The light was now gone for shooting, but he felt relieved and his body felt lighter. Thank you, Akira-sensei. I think I needed to hear that today. I can really get derailed sometimes when I get so focused on what I want. Akira nodded. I know, John. I still have to relearn this lesson too sometimes. John grinned. So maybe one day we'll both learn. Akira just smiled back. Yes, John. Let's hope so.